Okay, let's talk about Elon Musk. In the world of tech, and really the world in general, you'd be hard-pressed to find a name that gets a stronger reaction. We're going to break down his absolutely wild journey from a kid coding in South Africa to becoming one of the most powerful and, let's be honest, controversial figures alive today.
I mean, that quote right there really says it all, doesn't it? This isn't just about starting businesses. That's a mission statement about changing the entire trajectory of our species. So how on earth does one person get to that point? Well, it all started out a lot smaller than you might think.
You see, before the rockets and the electric cars, Musk was an internet guy. This is the story of how a young immigrant, obsessed with computers, basically used the dot-com boom as his personal launchpad. What's just incredible about this timeline is the speed. Born in South Africa, he's coding and selling video games by the time he's 12. He moves to North America because he believed that's where the future was made. And then look at that jump. He drops out of a PhD program at Stanford after just 2 days to start his first company. Who does that?
And this was the first huge win. In 1999, his company Zip2 gets bought for $307 million. At 28 years old, he's suddenly a multimillionaire. Now, for most people, that's it. You've won the game. Time to retire to a beach somewhere. But for him, this was just the seed money for what came next.
So he takes that money and immediately rolls it into his next big idea, an online bank that would eventually become PayPal. And when eBay buys PayPal for a jaw-dropping $1.5 billion, Musk's personal payout makes him ridiculously wealthy. But he still wasn't thinking about buying an island. He was thinking about risking every last cent on things that sounded like pure science fiction.
Okay, and this is where the story gets really dramatic. Instead of protecting his fortune, he decided to gamble everything, and I mean everything, on companies that pretty much every expert said were completely impossible and doomed to fail.
Just try to wrap your head around that for a second. We're talking about his entire fortune, hundreds of millions of dollars, poured into two of the toughest industries on the planet, space rockets and cars. These weren't just risky bets. These were ideas that smart, experienced people were calling insane. So what were these insane ideas?
Well, first, there was SpaceX. The goal from day one wasn't just to launch a few satellites. No, the stated goal was to make humanity a multiplanetary species, to put people on Mars. Back in 2002, the idea of a private startup doing that was literally a joke in the aerospace industry. And for a long time, it looked like they were right.
The early days were just brutal. The first rocket launch failed. The second rocket failed. The third one blew up. The money was gone, Musk was broke, the company was broke, the entire dream was hanging by a thread on one final desperate fourth launch. And then, in 2008, against all possible odds, it worked. Falcon 1 reached orbit.
Now, here's the part that's almost hard to believe. Well, all of that high-stakes rocket drama was going on, the explosions, the bankruptcy. It wasn't the only thing he was doing. At the exact same time, he was betting the rest of his money on another crazy idea, right here on planet Earth.
And that was Tesla. You've got to remember, back then, electric cars were glorified golf carts. They were slow, they were ugly, they had no range. Musk's whole idea was the complete opposite. He wanted to prove an electric car could be better than a gas car, that it could be faster, sexier, and something you'd actually want to drive.
So with SpaceX finally reaching orbit and Tesla starting to gain some traction, we get to the part of the story where these gigantic, world-changing gambles actually start to work. And when they did, they completely turned entire industries upside down.
After almost dying, SpaceX went on an absolute tear. They became the first private company ever to send a spacecraft to the International Space Station. But the real revolution, the thing that changed everything, was landing and reusing their rockets. It fundamentally rewrote the rules of space travel, making it cheaper than anyone thought possible.
And at the same time, you had this parallel revolution happening with Tesla. From the speedy roadster to the game-changing Model S and then the car for the masses, the Model 3. Tesla didn't just sell cars. It forced every other major automaker on the planet to get serious about going electric, and in the process, it became one of the most valuable car companies in the world.
But it's important to see that he wasn't just building separate companies. He started connecting the dots, weaving them all together into a much bigger, more integrated plan for what the future could look like.
Getting Solar City was a huge piece of that puzzle. Suddenly, the vision became clear. You use Solar City panels on your roof to generate clean electricity.
You store that electricity in a Tesla Powerwall battery in your garage, and then you use that clean stored energy to power your Tesla car. Generation, storage, transportation. It's the whole package.
And the ideas just kept coming. Hates traffic? Okay, start the Boring Company to dig tunnels under cities. Thinks travel is too slow? Okay, come up with the Hyperloop. Worried about the future of human intelligence? Okay, start Neuralink to connect the human brain to computers. It's this relentless drive to just solve the biggest problems he can find.
So what is it? What's the philosophy that makes someone risk billions of dollars on what are essentially Mars-shot ideas? Well, if you look closely, it really comes down to a few very specific beliefs.
First and foremost, he believes that for humanity to survive long-term, we need a backup plan. Earth is like a single hard drive holding all of our information. If it crashes, it's game over. So for him, going to Mars isn't just a cool idea, it's a survival imperative.
Second, he's absolutely convinced that we are in a race against time to get off fossil fuels. That's the entire mission of Tesla and his energy businesses. It's not just about building a good company, it's about accelerating the transition to a sustainable future.
Third is this deep-seated belief that technology is the most powerful tool we have for solving big problems and pushing humanity forward. That's the common thread you see in all his ventures, from AI all the way to brain-computer interfaces with Neuralink.
And finally, and this might be the most important one, an understanding that you can't have huge breakthroughs without taking huge risks. His whole career is built on questioning everything, breaking problems down to their basic physics, and building from there, even when everyone else says it's impossible.
This really sums it up perfectly. His story is just an absolutely wild ride. It's about having an imagination that is almost incomprehensibly big, and then having the courage and the relentless, non-stop drive to actually try and make it a reality.
So, what do you make of it all? Is he a visionary building us a better future? Is he a disruptor who breaks things along the way? Or is he something else entirely? That's the big question his story leaves us with, and I think it's one that the future is still waiting to answer.